Hello guys, welcome back to my channel again. So in this video we'll learn how to do debugging in VS Code. Okay, so normally when you do debugging we tend to write lot of print statements, which is okay, like if you are handling very small project or maybe you don't have a very big file where there are like hundreds of lines of codes. So in that case using print statement is okay, but if you work on a bigger project where there are a lot of lines of codes, so there you have to use the VS Code debugger to understand where your error is, right? So to start debugging, so first you need to understand where you need to add breakpoints. So what is breakpoints? Breakpoint is basically a stop to your continuously running program so that you can debug it, right? So wherever you feel that okay, your code might be running into problem, so you specifically go you add a breakpoint. Okay, first how to add breakpoints. So when I hover my mouse to in this slide, right? So if you see, here is a line number, and just beside to that here is a red dot coming, right? So if you see, click to add breakpoint, right? So here is specifically it is saying that you can add a breakpoint, right? Suppose I have this simple program, right? So here I am calling the main function, and then main function is calling another function factorial, right? So let's say I want to add a breakpoint here, right? So I want to understand what is happening in this specific line, right? So once I add my breakpoint, so in VS Code, like once you click on this drop down, right? So normally you have run your code, right? So if you press Ctrl+R, that will run your code. Then at the end, right, or towards the end, you have Python debugger, which will basically help you to debug your code, right? So what will happen in debug mode? So basically when you run it in debug mode, so wherever you add your breakpoints, you have added your breakpoints, the program will go and stop there. So it will wait for your instruction so that it can proceed further. Okay, so now I have added a simple breakpoint at this line number 3. Let me show you how it will work, right? So I click on this drop down, right? You'll go and you run this Python debugger. Okay, so when I click on this, so it started debugging, right? So it run my Python code in debugging mode, right? Now you can see, now the whole line where I added my breakpoint, it is highlighted, right? So what I can do normally, so in your project or in your work, so you use this debug console, right? So this is very important, I'll say console, to understand what is happening, right? So whatever previously it has run, right? So it has came to this main function, right? So where the execution will happen, the name equal to main, right? So it will go to number, right? So if I want to see what is my numbers variable, right? So I can type num. So basically it will auto display, and you click tab. Okay, so tab will give you auto completion here, and you press here, so it will show you that the numbers is basically having this list which is containing 589 as number, right? Next you can do, okay, suppose you want to see what is my result, right? So you can basically do debugging here, right? So you click on tab, it will show what is the result. Okay, so this is the main console where you can do lot of debugging purpose, right? So once I run my debugger, so I'll show you what are the other things it will display. Okay, so I'll just slightly minimize my screen. Okay, I'll run it to my window, so I'll again open this. Okay, now if you see, once you run your code in debug mode, so here you see lot of options coming, right? So what is this option? It will basically go on continue, right? So what will happen if you click on this step over, so it will go one step by step, right? So if I click on this, okay, so for I in range, right, whatever the range it has, right? So 1 to number till, right, number plus 1, so it will go step by step, right? Continue will do what? continue will basically skip whatever the result in between, and suppose you have added one more breakpoint here. Okay, let me add one more breakpoint here, and if I want to start over, right, so in between the debugging, suppose you want to add one more breakpoint, so basically you don't need to stop it, you can just restart it, right. So I'll restart this debugging again. Now you'll see. Okay, I'll show you what this continue option does. Right now it came to this specific line where I've added my breakpoint. Now if I press step over, it will go to the next step, right. So now if I, let's say I want to skip this step, right, so I'll press continue. Okay, so what will happen, continue will basically skip the current execution and it will go to the next breakpoint, right. So I'll keep on pressing this one. Okay, so basically what is happening, right, if you see, it came to the next. Since this is a I've already added a breakpoint, so it is keep on running to that particular breakpoint because it has a range, right. So it has to go through that range specifically, right. The third option is step into, right. So basically step into means, suppose you have a function, right. I'll show you once again. Let's say I have this function, right, factorial of number, right. When I added a breakpoint here, right, and if I want to restart my debugging again, so what will happen, the debugger will come and stop it here, right. It will stop in my breakpoint. So if I press continue, right, step over, it will go to the next line. But if I press step into, basically it will go into the function to understand what is happening. If I press step into, okay, if you see, now it came to this line, right, and if I press step out, it will come out of that line, and if I press step over, it will go to the next line, right. So this is how you step into and step out of the function or whatever the scenario you are basically running, right. Restart basically to restart your debugging, and stop is like you have to stop it, right. You have done your debugging, you want to stop it, right. So that is the basic thing of your debugging. Mostly you will be using this terminal and this debugging console, right. So in case if you want to understand something, right, so here if you see, there is a watch option, right. So here you want to write any kind of expression, right. So what you can write, you can write any expression. So just like I added my expression here previously. So if I want to say what is my range is basically showing, right. So you can add this expression to this watch list. It will basically show whenever this particular line comes, right. So it will show what is happening in that expression, right, so that it will basically become easier for you to debug, right. And one more thing, you have here the breakpoints, right. So breakpoints normally you have, so basically when I add a breakpoint, this is a line breakpoint, right. So similarly you have other breakpoints as well, right. Raise a exception when there is a exception, right. So what happens, instead of raising the expression coming out of the error, right, coming out of the particular debugging, what it will do, it will just wait there, right. So you can definitely make use of that, right. If you don't have a try catch exception, so you can definitely click on this specific range exception, on caught exception, and user uncaught exception, right. And there is also like function breakpoint. So these are the must, you can click on this exception. So basically if you don't have any exception, that is fine, you can go to that breakpoint, right. Let's say you have any exception, so instead of raising that exception and coming out of the loop, what will happen, it will go and wait, right, just like your breakpoint. So you have different kind of here we have added line breakpoint, so here you can add a exception breakpoints, right. So a function also you can add definite function breakpoints, right. So that is all, like mostly you will be using this breakpoints, line breakpoints, debugging console to understand what is happening, right. And you can start the continue or step over and all those things, right. So this is all about the basic of debugging, I'll say, right. So I hope this video is useful to you, right. Thank you.